All right, well, those are the headlines that we are tracking for you all evening on ET Now. But without any further ado, let me introduce our very first guest on the show. Anshu Kapoor, he's the head of investment management for Edelweiss Private Wealth Management. Anshu, thank you so much for taking out time and joining us today on the Money Show. To start with, Anshu, retail investors may find that, okay, my fixed deposit, the very loyal traditional investment class for a lot of Indians, which used to give 7.5-8% return in 1 year, now has come down to a bare 5-6%, and equity is too volatile, already at record high levels, so valuations are a bit concerning. How can retail investors look beyond these two asset classes?
Hi, Mobina. Good evening. Thank you for having me on your show. Yes, I think you started the show by mentioning some of the problems investors face. And over the last 20-30 years, you're absolutely right. The way Indians invest and save has not changed much. We largely invest across 4 asset classes, which is bank deposits and fixed income. We invest in equities, which is largely, stocks on the exchange or through mutual funds. We invest in gold, and we invest in real estate. So the pattern of holding and the pattern of investing hasn't changed much, even though alternatives or a lot more solutions are available today. And I think before we get into what kind of options are available and how investors can approach, just to list down why you should look at an alternative kind of an investment. Well, number one, you rightly said yields. I think it's a global hunt for yield going on. Interest rates have fallen, and never before we've seen rates at such low. And the post-tax yields are, maybe sub 3% today for most investors in fixed income. And fixed income being the largest asset class in India. Second, you rightly said equities, very volatile. You can give up 5 years of gains in, 3 months. So again, how do you allocate long-term capital without, having this constant fear that, something will go wrong? And I think the third more important piece is India is only 2% of global GDP, but still Indians and all of us invest all our money in Indian rupees and in Indian assets. So maybe there is a case to invest in 98% of the other part of GDP, right, across the world. And finally, how can you find access to opportunities which are hard to come by? For example, unlisted equities or IPOs and so on. So these are some of the cases for you to consider investing in alternatives. And I'm happy to lay out, what all possibilities are there. If you have any other questions, otherwise we can jump into this.
Well, let's straight do that then, Anshu, because you gave one hint already, and that is diving into the balance 97-98% of the GDP that's there outside of India. Let's start with that, and let's consider all the other options available, Anshu.
Fantastic, sure. So, like I said, India is a small part. It's a growing economy. It's done very well as our markets have matured. We are a $3 trillion market cap country. It is not small, fairly large, but there are other parts of the world that are also growing and could be equally exciting. So my recommendation and suggestion to investors is to look outside and maybe start small, maybe start by looking at let's say the larger countries in the world. For example, the US and China make 45% of global GDP. Why not start there? Those markets are equally vibrant, offer you a lot of possibilities, and also a lot of areas or opportunities or sectors you cannot today find in India. For example, technology extremely vibrant in both countries. So there are now feeder funds available. There is a liberalized remittance scheme available for you to invest in, but maybe start small. There are a lot of ETFs which can give you access to the NASDAQ, the S&P, or the Chinese indices. You can also access these markets through some feeder funds that are available. And finally, if you want to set up a dollar or a hard currency account, you can also do by remitting through liberalized remittance scheme. So my request and suggestion will be to just take small steps, learn, understand, but do diversify. That will give you access to newer opportunities as well as maybe reduce some correlation. You will not be completely correlated to the Indian assets. So that is one. And any questions, Mubina? Then otherwise I can move on to equities as well.
Go right ahead, Anshu.
Right. So I think diversification is number one in reducing your risk and maybe enhancing the possibility of returns. Number two, within equities and within India, there are these category of products or funds available that will help you on two counts. Number one is to give you access to opportunities that you do not have, right? Look at the way we invest, like I said, stocks or mutual funds in the listed markets. But how about, and this is something that I feel very strongly about, last year about $60 billion of private equity came into India, all global allocation, global funds coming to India, and they invested in the next generation companies of India, the future of India. If I were to stack all of Indian capital alongside, it will not be even 10% of that amount. So what will it take for Indian investors to be able to invest in the next generation companies of India? There are possibilities now. You can invest into late stage private equity funds, which are structured like AIFs. So that is something I highly recommend you look at. The other alternatives and maybe more simpler alternatives are, there are now these pre-IPO funds, right? A class of very high quality companies is going IPO. But again, accessing the IPO market, getting allocation, it's like a lottery ticket, right? So how do you go about that in a more structured manner? Maybe look at some of these IPO funds or pre-IPO funds. So again, within equities, this is one class of investing products giving you access to opportunities you did not have. The other class also is very interesting. See, all of us are long only, right? We have believed in the India story, the structural growth story of this country, and we've invested in funds or stocks which are what I call long only. You ride the market cycle, you go up when the market goes up, you go down when the market goes down, right? In a range, obviously. But what if you had the opportunity also to constantly hedge? What if you could have a little lower volatility but exposure to equities? Just imagine your drawdowns are lower. Let's say if Nifty volatility on a historical basis is about 18%, maybe there's a product that can give you 8% volatility. Will you not feel more comfortable investing in something like that? Fortunately, now we have a category of funds which are known as hedge funds globally. It's a very complex term, but within that there is a class of products which is long short equity products which aim to do this. So again, more options available to you. Do ask your financial advisor, ask for recommendation, and see if those products suit you. So I think those are on the equity and the geographical diversification. And Mubina, we can also talk about what's available across
Anshu,
fixed income and real estate.
Question. Anshu, just a follow-up question on equities. You spoke about the next generation companies that Indians can invest in, or the pre-IPO funds. But what's the catch over there? Because when there's IPO allotment, I know I can start off small. Maybe 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. What is the catch in pre-IPO? Because it is obviously very tempting. I get over the hurdle of managing to get an allocation. Plus, most IPOs do tend to give a great listing day pop. So what's the catch over there? Is it, maybe an initial investment or something that, our viewers should be aware of?
Yeah. So I think you're right. Absolutely right, Mubina. There is a trade-off. If you were to look at, let's say, what I call a late-stage private equity fund, the trade-off is that maybe you are locked in for 3 to 5 years. It is not easy to liquidate your investment before the fund matures. I think that is number one trade-off. Liquidity is number one trade-off. A mutual fund, equity mutual fund, usually you can sell and get your money back in 2 days. On the pre-IPO funds, again, the trade-off is that today, as per SEBI norms, you have to come into an AIF structure, category 2 structure, where the minimum investment amount is 1 crore. right? If you wanted to access the pre-IPO market, which is accessing companies before they go IPO. But there are also mutual funds available today, which only do IPOs. They will apply in IPOs as a company is going IPO, and because they are a mutual fund, they come under the institutional category. They have a larger chance of getting allocation. There you can invest as low as 5,000 rupees, and those products are fairly liquid. I think that is the trade-off. Liquidity is the trade-off, and lock-in is the trade-off.
Okay, great. But yeah, like we've been saying that a lot of these alternative investments, they've been getting increasingly democratized, and now of course you have these mutual funds which will invest only in IPOs, and they being institutional in nature do tend to get a good amount of allotment. So the problem of allotment, the problem of liquidity, which is there, in a late stage PE fund, the problem of a lock-in, and the minimum investment amount is all obliterated. So that's one route that retail investors can consider. Okay, Anshu, let's move on and talk about, you were mentioning realty. But again, realty, the entry point I assume would be starting 1 crore rupees.
Yeah. Again, so there is serious democratization happening, fortunately, Mubina, in this asset class. Traditionally, we've all invested in real estate, first in our primary homes, and then, in second homes, or then off late commercial and so on. But now, thanks to a very proactive regulatory regime, you are able to invest in something called REITs, or real estate investment trusts, which are a very large category globally. They are now available. 3 products are listed on the exchange. So you can very conveniently buy those products at very low minimums. That is available to you. So that is fairly democratized in that sense. You can just buy it off the exchange. And if you wanted to do, a little bit more complex, or a lot more financial way of investing in real estate without owning the real estate, then there are these real estate funds available, which again, the minimum will be 1 crore. They could again trade off of longer lock-in and lower liquidity. But I would recommend investors who want to access commercial real estate, begin by allocating some amount of capital to one or all of the 3 REITs listed. You will get very high quality assets underlying there. So make small beginnings, learn. If it works for you, maybe look at other avenues.
Okay, so we've discussed equities, we've discussed real estate as well, and that covers a good quantum of what we call as alternative asset classes. Mr. Kapoor, let's talk about things like P2P lending, sovereign gold bond schemes. Would you even classify them as alternative investment options that retail investors should consider? I mean, P2P lending is so new, thanks to all of the emergence of these digital lending platforms. And look at the interest rates as well they offer. Is this something that you cover or actively think is a good investment option?
Well, given the nature of the audience of your show, Mubina, I would recommend that only opt for products or solutions which are very tightly regulated by SEBI, which come under the mutual fund structure or the AIF structure and so on. There you have a fair amount of risk control and governance kind of given to you. And if there are any bilateral transactions or some of these platforms, these could be complex. There could be lure of higher yield, but again, the trade-off may not be worth it and it may not be relevant for everyone. So I would advise, unless you understand this, unless you know the risks in these kind of products, maybe first look at category of products called InvITs, infrastructure investment trusts. That's again a good beginning, again listed on the exchange. Small capital allocation required. So start small, start simple, and then maybe look at something like P2P lending and so on. Gold bonds and all this another form of but again the yield may not be very attractive to you. So be careful as you venture out, because I think the risks are higher in fixed income. because one default and you may not get your principal also back. In equities or listed products with liquidity, you are able to at least come out of it. So that's my suggestion.
Okay, excellent. So I think that's roughly just a gist of all the alternative investment classes available for you. And I guess what are the parameters as well that you should look at before you decide on opting for one? I think regulation, look at the amount of regulation, around a particular asset class. And then decide on investment. If you're starting off, it's best to go for those products which are well regulated, tightly regulated. It gives a fair amount of control and lowers the risk as well. Speaking of risk, then Anshu, how would you classify the risks associated with some of these alternative investment classes that we've spoken about? Lesser than equity, equal to Indian equities, what would it be like, and what would be the suitability as well of these asset classes for different investors?
Right. That's a very good question, Mobina. Thank you for asking that question. It's very relevant for customers to understand, investors to understand that, listen, return is only one parameter. Do not get blinded or, too lured into the potential or the past performance and all of that. The only consider an alternative if it is also helping you reduce risk, or at least for the same risk has the potential to give you an equal or more amount of return that you would otherwise make with everything else you were doing. So that is point number one. How can you reduce risk? If a product is able to maybe reduce your potential drawdowns, like I said, a mutual fund will fall with the market. If there's a product that is likely to fall lower or has proven to fall lower, that is reducing your risk, right? You are reducing your risk by even diversifying. So when you take equity exposure to US or China or any other part of the world, your risk is the same. Your risk is the same from a equities perspective, but from a diversification perspective, you are reducing your concentration risk on your portfolio. So that's an important point to understand. And I think the other point to really note is to not get too much locked in. So think about how much of your portfolio can be in locked-in products. Some of these products, like I said, will come with lock-ins and very low liquidity. And I think that is that's a very important rule in terms of buy what you can sell. Okay, so be clear, do not have 30% of your portfolio allocated to lock-in products, for example. So have your own guardrails, have your own parameters, but I would say safety, you pointed out from a regulatory perspective, liquidity, return and risk. These should be your 4 parameters for you to look at some of these products. And again, each product and solution will have a different parameter to study those in detail.
Okay, in fact, Anshu, ours is a show where we get a lot of viewers constantly interacting with us, and we've got a question from Tushar, which, I'm sure you'll be able to help out with. He asks, are the regulatory norms reliable in REITs? That's his question. So what's your view around the regulation around REITs? Because like you said, right, you should invest in a product that's tightly regulated. So what do you think of REITs from that perspective?
Tushar, please go ahead, feel comfortable. I think in India, the regulator has done an extremely good job. The regulations are as good as anywhere in the world. It's very, very tightly laid out in terms of how much dividends needs to be distributed, what kind of projects and how much allocation needs to be done to under construction and fully constructed properties and so on. In terms of disclosure norms, again, very well laid out. So I would not hesitate in REITs. You have to although look at who is the sponsor of the REIT, what kind of assets are there. That's any other investment risk. But from a regulatory perspective, I think it is one of the best in the world. So I am very confident and very comfortable with them.
Okay, excellent. And I know you mentioned that those who want to invest in realty can consider one of the 3 REITs that are already listed and available on the bourses, liquidity and the fact that, there's no small. I mean, you can start off with as small a figure as you want. I think that's one of the best parts. Anshu, we're just a little short in time, but I must ask you this question before I let you go. As a retail investor who's starting off to explore this wonderful world of alternative investments, how much of my portfolio should I start off with, and how should I slowly increase it? Or do you think that if whatever the percentage is should be put in one shot, or do you think just like how we do SIPs and equity MFs, you gradually increase this portion of money?
I find it actually, Mubina, the hardest question to answer on a show like this, because each investor has their own profile. But let me make an attempt. I would say start with anywhere between 5 to 10%. That's a good starting point. Yes, you can allocate over a period of time. You can allocate over 6 months or maybe up to a year. But again, I would, let's say, have the first stop sign at about 15% to your portfolio, right? And within that, I would recommend you take a hard look, like I said, on liquidity that you are foregoing, on the lock-ins that you are getting into. So if you feel comfortable, you can actually go on and increase. See, I mean, today we call them alternatives, but globally these products are fairly mainstream. So they're fairly usual in the global markets. But because you are starting new, because it is something not known to you, start, like I said, slow, gradual, 5 to 10%. I mean, opportunities are only growing, they're not going anywhere. So it is prudent to take your time.
Okay, well, Anshuman, with that, we are completely out of time. Thank you so much for introducing us to this world of alternative investments, which, like you said, globally, they're not really alternative. Many of them consider these as, your mainstay and regular investment classes as well. But it's developing in India, like you mentioned. It's getting more democratized. And I'm sure that as awareness as well increases, more and more Indians will participate in the different kinds of asset classes and, risk diversifiers, as we could call them, that are available. Thanks once again, Anshu.
Thank you, Mubina.
Okay, well, with that, I think we'll just slip into a very short break. But when we return in our Meet Your Fund Manager segment, we will be talking to the fund manager of the ICICI Prudential Multi-Asset Fund that invests not just in equity, not just in debt, but also does the job of investing in what we call as these alternative and investment classes like gold, realty, and infrastructure as well. More on that when we return.